Before we begin, a heartfelt plea. Over 98% of you watching haven't subscribed. This story, raw, scandalous, and ripped from my darkest secrets, can only continue if you hit that button. Your support keeps these truths alive. Subscribe now. Don't miss what happens next. The first time I cheated on my dead husband, it rained. Not the gentle kind. Needles of water stabbed the earth as I knelt at his grave, my black dress clinging like a second skin. "I am sorry, James," I whispered, though the wind stole the words. That is when he appeared. Philip, umbrella in hand, eyes darker than the storm. "Let me help you," he said. I should have run. Instead, I let him drive me home. 3 weeks later, I was naked in Philip's loft, his hands pinning mine above my head, the taste of whiskey on his tongue. "You're obsessive," I gasped, arching into him. He smirked. "You love it." I did. For the first time since James' funeral, I felt alive. But after, as I dressed, I heard it, a voice on Philip's voicemail, low and familiar. "She can't know I am watching." My blood froze. It was James' voice. I dropped Philip's phone. The screen cracked, but the message kept playing. "Keep her close. I need more time." "Who is this?" I hissed, shaking. Philip strode in, towel around his waist, muscles tense. "Claudia, it is not what? That is James. My dead husband." I scrambled for my purse, but Philip blocked the door. "Listen to me. He is not dead. But you're in danger." The room spun. James' casket. The autopsy. The funeral. "Liar." I slapped him, hard. He didn't flinch. "Check the grave," he said quietly. "You will see." I ran. At the cemetery, mud seeped into my knees as I clawed at James' tombstone. Beneath it? Nothing. No casket. Just empty dirt. The grave was empty. I stared into the hollow pit where James' casket should have been, rainwater pooling at the bottom like a mockery of tears. My throat burned. Was this a joke? A nightmare? But the mud caked under my nails felt real. So did the voicemail, James' voice, on Philip's phone. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I drank. Cheap wine, straight from the bottle, until my kitchen blurred. James alive. The words slithered through me, equal parts hope and horror. If he was out there, why hadn't he come home? Why let me grieve? 3 days later, I went back to Philip. He opened his loft door, shirtless, jaw stubbled. "Claudia." His voice was gravel, but his eyes flickered, guilt? Fear? I shoved past him. "Explain." He poured bourbon, hands steady. James faked his death. Someone was after him. Powerful people. He needed to disappear. "And you?" I hissed. "Who the hell are you?" "A friend." He stepped closer, heat radiating off him. "He asked me to protect you." I laughed, bitter. "By sleeping with me?" His gaze dropped to my lips. "By keeping you distracted." The air thickened. I hated him. I wanted him. My palm cracked against his cheek. He caught my wrist, yanking me against him. "You want answers?" He growled. "Then stay alive." His mouth crashed into mine, all teeth and bourbon. We fell onto the leather couch, his hands rough, my nails raking his back. It wasn't love. It was rage. I met Mike 2 nights later at a dive bar. Blonde, grinning, a tattoo peeking from his collar. "Rough day?" he asked, sliding me a tequila shot. "You have no idea." He leaned in, blue eyes glinting. "Try me." I did. Between shots, I spilled half-truths, widow, loneliness, bad choices. He listened, fingertips brushing mine. "Let me be your good choice," he murmured. We kissed in the alley, rain misting our skin. His hands were gentle, unlike Philip's. Safe. But when he pushed me against the brick, whispering, "I have got you," all I saw was James. I took him home anyway. Philip's loft. Mike's apartment. My bed, still smelling of James' cologne. I juggled them all. Philip's bruising kisses, Mike's lazy Sundays, the ghost of my husband. "You're different with me," Mike said once, tracing my hip bone. "Like you're hiding." I froze. "Don't." He kissed my shoulder. "Secrets are okay. I have got mine too." Red flag. But I ignored it. Meanwhile, Philip grew possessive. Stay away from that bartender, he warned, pinning me to his shower wall, water scalding us both. He is not part of the plan. What plan? I demanded. He shut me up with his tongue. It came at 3 a.m. while Mike slept beside me. A number I hadn't deleted. James. Unknown. I am alive. Don't trust them. My heart stopped. Another message flashed. A photo. I opened it. A grainy selfie. James, bruised but breathing, holding that day's newspaper. Unknown. They're lying to you. Find me. The bathroom light flicked on. Mike stood in the doorway, shirtless, eyes sharp. Who's that, Claudia? Mike's shadow loomed in the doorway, his posture rigid, the neon glow from the bar sign outside slicing through the dark room. My phone burned in my hand, James' face still glowing on the screen. Alive. Who is texting you at this hour? Mike asked, voice casual but edged with something colder. I locked the phone, shoving it under the pillow. No one. A wrong number. He tilted his head, the tattoo on his collarbone, a coiled snake, catching the light. Looked like a photo. Let me see. No. I stood, sheets tangling around my legs. My heart hammered. It is private. He stepped closer, all faux calm. You're shaking. Back off, Mike. For a heartbeat, his mask slipped. A flicker of frustration, maybe fear. Then he sighed, running a hand through his tousled hair. Fine. Secrets, right? He forced a smile. I will grab us water. The second the bathroom door shut, I dressed in a frenzy, fingers trembling. The photo haunted me, James' split lip, the date on the newspaper, yesterday. He is alive. He's here. I slipped out, the night air biting my skin. Philip answered on the first knock, already dressed in black, as if he had been waiting. You saw the text. I shoved past him. Who sent it? Where is he? He closed the door slowly. Sit down. Tell me. My voice cracked. Is James alive? Did you help him fake his death? What? Sit down. His command snapped like a whip. I obeyed, sinking onto the couch. He knelt in front of me, gripped tight on my knees. Listen carefully. The people after James? They're still out there. If they find out you know he is alive, they will kill you. And him. Then why send the text? I didn't. His jaw flexed. But someone wants you to panic. To make mistakes. Like trusting you? I spat. His gaze darkened. He leaned in, breath hot on my neck. You don't have a choice. I pushed him back. I am done with your games. I am finding James. Claudia. He caught my wrist, voice dropping. You're being watched. By both sides. A chill crawled up my spine. Both? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, swore, and stood. Stay here. I will be back. Where are you? The door slammed. I went to the only place that made sense, Mike's bar. Closed at 4 a.m., but the back door was unlocked. He stood behind the counter, polishing glasses, music low. Knew you would come back, he said without looking up. Who are you, Mike? He set the glass down. What? You knew James. Didn't you? Silence. Then a bitter laugh. Figure that out fast. My stomach dropped. How? He rounded the counter, eyes hollow. We worked together. Private security gigs. Until he screwed me over. Left me to take the fall when a job went bad. When? 2 years ago. He stepped closer. I lost everything. My license. My life. Then he dies, and I think, finally, karma. But now. You're telling me he is alive? I staggered back. You have been following me. Not me. He gripped my arms. But someone is. I tried to warn you. Stay away from Philip. He is not some random stranger. He is. A crash upstairs. We froze. Wait here, Mike said, grabbing a baseball bat. I didn't wait. Home. Safe. Alone. Or so I thought. I poured wine, hands steadying, when the streetlight outside flickered. A figure stood across the street, hooded, face hidden. James. My breath hitched. I flung the window open. James? The man looked up. Not James. But the eyes, the same hazel, the same scar on his brow, stopped me cold. He turned, vanishing into the dark. I stumbled outside, barefoot, chasing the shadow. James! A hand clamped over my mouth from behind. Scream and you die, a voice growled. The blade pressed to my throat. Where is he? The man hissed. I don't know. Wrong answer. A car screeched around the corner, headlights blinding us. The man cursed, shoving me to the pavement. Tires screamed. Doors slammed. Claudia! Philip's voice. I looked up, trembling. Philip stood over me, gun drawn. Behind him, Mike sprinted toward us, face pale. And down the street, the hooded man watched, still watching, before melting into the night. The pavement scraped my palms as Philip yanked me up, his grip bruising. Mike skidded to a stop beside us, breath ragged. What the hell was that? He snapped, glaring at Philip. Not here, Philip growled, holstering his gun. He dragged me toward his car. I twisted free. No, talk now. Rain soaked through my shirt, the street light flickering. Philip's jaw tightened. Get in the car, Claudia. Or I will knock you out and carry you. Mike stepped between us. Touch her again, and I will break your arm. Philip laughed coldly. You couldn't in college. You can't now. College? The word hung in the air. Mike's fists clenched, but he stepped back. They took me to a crumbling motel outside the city. Room 12 smelled of mildew and gun oil. Philip tossed a first aid kit on the bed. Clean your cuts. I didn't move. How do you two know each other? Mike leaned against the wall, arms crossed. We were roommates. Before I met James. Philip peeled off his jacket, revealing a scarred shoulder. We worked private ops. Then Mike got sloppy. Sloppy? Mike scoffed. You mean honest? Unlike you. Enough. I stood, trembling. Tell me about James, now. Philip exchanged a glance with Mike. Sit down. No. He sighed. James faked his death because he stole something. Something dangerous. Powerful people want it back. They will kill anyone close to him. Including me, I whispered. Mike nodded. He reached out to Philip to protect you. But I didn't know he was alive until you showed up at my bar. Then why get close to me? He looked away. At first, I thought you were part of his game. Then? His gaze met mine. Then I knew you were not. 2 years earlier. James paced the living room, phone pressed to his ear. I told you, I am out. No more jobs. I looked up from my book. Who is it? No one. He kissed my forehead, too quick. Go to bed, Claude. I will be up soon. But I stayed. Watched him shred a photo, a diamond the size of a fist. We are in trouble, he whispered that night, holding me too tight. We will be okay, I said, naive. He buried his face in my hair. I will fix this. I swear. Back in the motel, Philip tossed a file on the bed. Photos spilled out, James with a diamond, men in suits, a warehouse fire. He stole a blood diamond from a warlord, Philip said. Got cold feet. Faked his death to draw heat away from you. I traced James' face in the photo. Why not tell me? He wanted you safe. Even from the truth. Mike snorted. And you went along with it? Playing bodyguard by sleeping with her? Philip's fist connected with Mike's jaw. They brawled, crashing into the lamp, the room plunging into red emergency light. Stop! I screamed. They froze, bloodied, breathing hard. Where is he? I demanded. Philip wiped his lip. They took him. 3 days ago. I have been tracking them. Who is they? The men who just tried to kill you. We drove in silence to an abandoned dock. Waves clawed the shore, the air salted with decay. He is here, Philip said, loading his gun. How do you know? Because I would hide here. Mike stayed close as we crept into a rusted shipping container. Chains hung from the ceiling. Blood stained the floor. James? I whispered. A groan echoed in the dark. I froze. That voice. A figure stirred in the corner, face swollen, clothes torn. James. Alive. He lunged at me, eyes wild. Claudia, run. Gunfire erupted. Philip shoved me down as bullets tore through metal. Mike returned fire, shouting. James gripped my arm, his touch feverish. They lied to you, he rasped. Philip works for them. He is why I am here. The container door slammed shut. Darkness. A flashlight clicked on. Philip stood above us, gun aimed at James. Time's up. Philip's gun glinted in the flashlight beam, his face unreadable. James trembled beside me, his breath ragged. Mike crouched in the shadows, a knife in his hand. The air reeked of salt and blood. You sold me out, James spat at Philip. After everything. You sold yourself out, Philip snapped. You stole that diamond, then played hero. But the warlord pays better. My stomach dropped. Philip had been the trap all along. Mike lunged, knife slashing. Philip fired. The shot echoed, and Mike crumpled, clutching his leg. Mike! I screamed. James seized the distraction, tackling Philip. They crashed into the chains, the gun skidding toward me. I grabbed it, hands shaking. Claudia, shoot him. James yelled, pinned beneath Philip. Philip's eyes locked on mine. Don't, you will never know the truth. What truth? I cried. The diamond's gone. The warlord just wants him dead. Philip nodded at James. But I protected you. Always you. James laughed bitterly. He is lying. He is why they found us. He is why they took me. The gun trembled in my hands. Who do I trust? I pulled the trigger. The bullet tore through Philip's shoulder. He staggered back, shock flashing across his face. James scrambled free, grabbing the gun. Run. James dragged me toward the door. Mike limped behind us, cursing. We fled into the storm, sirens wailing in the distance. At the motel, James collapsed, his wounds bleeding fresh. I never meant for this, he whispered. Mike leaned against the wall, pale from pain. I will call an ambulance. For him. Not for you. I stared at James, the man I had mourned, the ghost who had shattered my life. Why fake your death? Why leave me? Tears filled his eyes. I thought they would kill you if I stayed. But I couldn't stay away. 2 weeks later, I stood at a bus station, a single bag slung over my shoulder. James was in custody, his fate tangled in courts and lies. Mike vanished after the ambulance came, leaving a note. You deserved better. Philip? Gone. No goodbyes. A pharmacy bag crinkled in my pocket. I had taken the test that morning. Positive. A life flickered inside me, a thread of chaos, of Philip's recklessness or Mike's tenderness. But I had chosen me. As the bus pulled away, I texted my sister, starting over. Don't ask where. Then I tossed the phone out the window. The desert town was quiet, the kind of place where secrets dissolve in the sun. I rented a studio above a diner, my belly still flat, my heart still scarred. One evening, as sunset bled across the sky, I unfolded the ultrasound photo. The tiny blur, mine, stared back. I whispered to the horizon, we will be okay. For the first time, I believed it. If this story gripped you, haunted you, or made your heart race, like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these twisted tales alive. Stay tuned for more. Because the next secret is always darker.